Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Madman video. It's another commentary track, guys. I know I've been doing a lot of these lately. I know maybe you like my Let's Plays more, but I really like doing these because they're very low effort. Anyway, this is episode 7 of Midnight Mass. The final episode, in fact. Ooh, so dramatic. What is it called, I wonder? Oh, yes, Book 7, Revelation. 7 episodes, 7 books. Very epic. So we have this chick waking up. She's definitely woke, but is that a good thing? Is it a good thing to be woke? Maybe, maybe not. Let's wait for the series to give us its own visual interpretation of that concept. So now she's got the epic Vin Diesel eyes from Chronicles of Riddick. Doesn't seem like they provide much of a benefit. They just make lights, artificial lights, look a lot more bright. The vampiric virus of civilization, where you defy nature to the point where you create a facsimile of nature within nature. And God gets pissed off at that you've done that. How dare you create a facsimile of the place that I gave you, and then prefer it over what I gave you? That's a concept where I go, okay, maybe God is the demiurge. Maybe he can go fuck himself. If a nice house that's warm, clean, and temperature regulated with artificial lights is evil, I'm evil. I like that type of shit. I don't want to live in a jungle and die at age 20 from some sort of natural shit. Ooh, nature is so perfect and beautiful. Yeah, go live in it, for real, for a week. It's like, well, we're only weak to living in nature because we're civilized. Yeah, because nature sucks. Nature deserves augmentation. It deserves edits. It's kind of like this series. There's a lot of things about nature that are beautiful, but they just need a little bit of human input to improve them. You know, if it's sinful to do that, you know, that's horse shit. It's a horse shit system. So now we get the epic vampire scenes. Yes, they are killing people and drinking their blood. Who could have predicted this would happen? But they're not just doing that. After they fed on people, they're converting them. It's an allegory for religious conversion. It's an allegory for bringing someone into a cult. You give them a sort of traumatic, abusive indoctrination, kind of like spanking them with a wooden paddle or making them wrestle in a pit of shit while you piss on them. You give them some sort of traumatic experience that's artificial, and then afterwards you go, let's clean you off. You're such a good boy. I've given you a traumatic experience to condition you, and now I'm going to give you a reward for going through the trauma. And the reward is, you're now my little cuck boy. That's every cult, every religion. Unfortunately, it's certain families. I'm not shitting on the family model. I think that's a pretty good model. But a lot of bad families use that model, where it's like, well, I beat you, but then I took you out for ice cream. Isn't it great that you have an ice cream cone after I beat you with a stick? It's like, no, actually it's not. I'd rather beat you with a stick. That would be a satisfying equivalent. Anyway, our main characters, rubber banding back to the show, have retreated into a random house. And this situation's very tense. They can't make any noise. They don't want to be found out. Ooh. Again, this is very Alien-esque, very The Thing-esque. Oh, it knocked out the power, it sent the fairies. Of course it did. It's not that stupid. It's controlling people. Of course it can do shit like this. It's obvious. this chick is so dumb. First, she fails to forgive her attacker and ingratiate herself with being higher than her own sense of wrath. And then she's like, let's all risk our lives to go find my parents. I mean, she loves her parents. Yeah, but this is like military shit. Like, you guys are fighting for your lives now. I mean, it's pretty selfish to say, let's all go back for my parents. In this situation, you got to suspend your selfishness for a bit. And I get it. She's a kid. She's not mature. I get it. Even so, if they wanted to ingratiate this character, they could have done the scene with the drunk guy in like episode 3 a lot better than they did. And this scene could have been done better too. If you want your black characters to seem if you wanted them to be good characters in general, every other character in this has a scene, at least our main characters, where they sacrifice something of themselves, some sort of desire or some amount of time or something to serve other people. That's an individual choice that produces a communal effect. That's the problem with the whole communism versus like capitalism debate. Is it's like, well, if you leave people alone, the evil ones are going to be evil, and the good ones are actually going to produce micro-communistic societies within wider society just by being generous because they're good people. And the evil people are just going to rot. In communism assumes everybody's generous or capable of generosity, which is not the case. So the evil people end up at the top because the smart evil people who are selfish just end up crawling their way up like insects to the top of the hive. There's forms of artificial order that are worse than chaos, and communism's one of them. Karl Marx was a straight-up Satanist. Look it up. I'm not making a joke. That's not a joke. He actually was a Satanist. He came from a family of rabbis, and he was a Satanist. That's the system you're going to follow? Really? Do you want that to be correct? Individualism, maybe it's also satanic. Maybe we're in hell. Who cares? It's a better way to be in hell to be a capitalist. At least you have a chance. With communism, I don't know, man. I'm getting off on a political tangent that I don't want to waste time with, so let's band back to the burning house we're currently in. It's almost like political debates distract you from what's going on around you. Just like politics distracted me from the scene here. Kind of a meta way of looking at things, but, it works. It's like, maybe you shouldn't be debating political systems. Maybe you should be focusing on resources and your own lives. Maybe you should be focusing on making some money. It's probably the best way to live. I love this. She just casually walks out of a burning house. She Catholically signs herself. Yeah, that's going to help. They're already fucked. We've already decided to eat them. Meaning save them. Meaning eat them. I love this. She just dabs on her. She's like, the last thing I want to say in my life is just to shit on you. That's brilliant, man. I love it. This is the scene that I wanted to see in the Stephen King Mist adaptation, and it's like the writers and directors of this put it in here just to as a roundabout way of editing the film adaptation of The Mist. You just want to dab on this chick. Loves you all equally, even if you're adrenochrome infected. Good for her. We're gonna resurrect you satanically. Don't worry, resurrection is a holy thing. Resurrection is totally normal, guys. Animals, you know what? When you run over a squirrel in your backyard, if you do the right rituals, it comes back to life. I'm sure that's normal. I'm sure all the Judeo-Christian religions are normal in their conception of resurrection as a natural thing. Does anything do that except a fucking jellyfish or some bizarre-ass shit that lives in a different environment? Does anything resurrect? No. When you're dead, you're dead. You try to circumvent that, that's like the express elevator to hell, going down. You believe in resurrection? You believe in anything like that? That is hell. You'll be resurrected, but you'll be in hell. Enjoy! Now, this scene is important. This is the best scene in the whole show, and I'm not exaggerating. I don't even want to talk about it, but that's the point of this video, so I'm going to talk about it. This is the arcane knowledge that this guy's whole arc has revealed. His whole sacrifice of this whole town of people has allowed him to communicate this knowledge, and the knowledge is so many deaths happen so quickly in every second that the demiurge, which is the kind of god he's talking about that would even be affected by that, would have enough of a human, flawed response to that to have an opinion about it. He's talking about a kind of Messiah complex thing where he thinks he's communicated with God enough to understand the weight of death. Death wouldn't weigh anything to God. To him, as a human, he can't imagine how any God could watch things suffer and die. That's because God is beyond human imagination. The whole idea of God is that it's a thing, it's an entity that's outside of our realm of understanding. You're not supposed to try to understand something that's not understandable. It's impossible by definition. You've created an entity and a definition that is beyond definition. So then if you, after making up that concept that's beyond concept, you then go, well, now we can try to understand it. That's insane. That's stupid. This guy has gone down the path of the fool, and he's looked at God and gone, well, God is beyond understanding. Now I'll try to understand him through emotional shit. And at the end of the day, he was just trying to rationalize his own pain. That's all he was doing. He was a petty, frightened child hiding in a corner. He was saying, I've been through pain, I've experienced death, I've experienced aging, and I want to reverse it all. I want to change reality to where we're all immortal and happy forever, like in heaven. How do you even know what heaven is? You've never been there. You've no memory of being there if you were. Maybe you're in heaven right now, and you're choosing to suffer because heaven is a realm where you get what you choose. Who knows? I love the poetry of his monologue with the waterfall. That's what I love about this scene. But he's sort of frantically trying to justify this sacrifice just so that he could be with this woman. I mean, it's like King Solomon fucking that dark-haired whore woman in the story of King Solomon, where after he has sex with her, in order to do that, she says, well, you have to worship Moloch, and you have to sacrifice to him. And King Solomon is so arrogant that he just crushes some bugs in his hand and says, well, that's my sacrifice. And it's like, come on, bro, you couldn't kill a cow. You're King Solomon. You could kill a person. And the demon is so dissatisfied with his sacrifice that King Solomon gets totally cucked and destroyed. in his arrogance, he worshipped not some demon, but he worshipped his own ego. Because all demons are just fun, fancy names for your ego, or your shadow self, or whatever. He worshipped his desire to transcend death and to be with his GF forever. And he killed this whole town just to jack off to his own fantasy. That's the point that this show makes. But it makes it so beautifully. I mean, I've bastardized it with corny pop culture expletive language, but that's what it does. It makes that point. And that's why it's so great, because it's talking to whoever's watching it. It's not some ivory tower gated, linguistic maze of high-minded, long terms. It's not some Jacques Derrida bullshit, some gate-kept crap. It's something that your average person can watch, and the visuals, the symbols will communicate the same thing that reading a philosophical text will tell you. And I like that. I like philosophical perspectives that their authors have communicated through media that are accessible to anybody. Like a guy who doesn't know how to read would understand what this is saying, even just subconsciously. That is doing good work. Gatekeeping and fucking with your message to the point where you confine it to a particular way of speaking or thinking, you confine it to people who have a particular education. I mean, I gotta say it, it's elitism, it is. And if you're an ANCAP hyper-capitalist guy, as much as if you're a communist, you should agree with the fact that I've characterized it that way. Because regardless of what your politics are, gatekeeping knowledge is not a good thing. Because your populace ends up weak and susceptible to hypnosis from outside. So as this epic fight goes on, I'm going to make reference to something that I've been meaning to make reference to as I've commentated upon this series. And that thing that I want to reference is a manga, which all of you anime incel virgins have probably heard of. If you haven't, you're not a real weeb. Vampire Hunter D. Vampire Hunter D is a lot like this series. It's a Stephen King inspired, in the sense that it's inspired by The Dark Tower. You have an edgy loner protagonist going through a sort of Fallout-esque westernized post-apocalypse environment. But he's a half vampire. And he's not evil. He doesn't drink blood. He tries to help people. He's like Christ, who in this series nomenclature, this series symbolism, is a vampire who betrayed his own kind because he hates his own kind and understands that they should not exist and cannot sustainably exist. So he wants to destroy them along with himself eventually. Vampire Hunter D shares a lot of similarities with this. It's a great manga, and I wanted to recommend it. I don't really have any ways of connecting it to this type of shit. Especially what this blood-soaked woman is yelling at us right now. And she's so hypnotized by her own creed that she destroys her own kind. Again, kind of like Vampire Hunter D. But Vampire Hunter D is not insane. He's very cold-minded, and he just kind of walks around and goes, I'm not going to destroy myself. I'm just going to find the members of my kind that are exploiting people, and I'm going to slowly destroy them, or quickly destroy them, whatever fate allows. That manga is so good, man. It's great. It combines a lot of really interesting aspects of different interpretations of this whole religious pool of lore with kind of weird magic technology fusion. I don't even know if there's a term for that. Magic punk? I don't know what the fuck. There's probably some cringe term for it. Basically, in the Vampire Hunter D lore, there's a bunch of really interesting tech that's half magical, half scientific, and it makes the series interesting because there's all these crazy events that happen. There's also a great movie that I might do a commentary on at some point because I love it. The second Vampire Hunter D movie is a fucking masterpiece. It's on par with Aeon Flux, in my opinion. The animation quality and the quality of the writing and the vocal performances of the voice actors, it's all very fucking good. It's worth checking out. With my commentary, of course. And you should like and subscribe. So here we have our epic Stephen King young characters. Stephen King likes to write a lot about young characters, and sometimes they have sex orgies in a sewer. I don't know, man. I'm not judging Stephen King, but, you know, it's kind of sus. I'm just going to say it. You can produce good work and still be a shit person. I mean, that's, you know, I'm a shit person in my own way. Thankfully, it's not some illegal flaw. It's just very cringe and fucked up. I'm not going to tell you what it is. And so this woman who sacrificed herself, now she's been revived. Her husband is also a boomer vampire hypnotized by controllers to destroy their children's future. It's like, my God, now we're on the same page. We both get it. Our children are just sacrificial meat to give to Baal or whoever. Whatever the name is, the names don't matter. It's the actions that matter. The language, the names, the labels, the symbols, it's all crap. Look at what people do. When you deprive your future generations, not just one generation, but multiple, of any economic opportunity because you're blindly serving your own needs, you are a demon. You are evil. The opposite of that, and I know a good example of this, when the Fukushima reactor failed, elderly Japanese men and women volunteered to clean up the radioactive waste because they knew they were going to die anyway. And they said, we want our children to grow up in a society that doesn't have a giant Chernobyl wasteland. So we are going to expose ourselves to radiation in order to relieve our children of that burden. That is a functioning, healthy societal gesture. That's something that parents are supposed to do. And if your parents were hard workers and they made a nest egg for you by sacrificing their own health and youth, then they're good people. Thankfully, mine are good people. My parents are very good. That's rare, though, you know. I'm lucky. But most people's parents these days are pieces of shit. That's unfortunate. And if they're pieces of shit in the way that the boomer generation has been for a lot of people, then they've done things that are so heinous. Like the future that you're walking into, it's worse than Fallout. It's worse than a video game on extra difficult hell mode. I mean, you know, good luck. This is why men in the West are trying to equate themselves with women so that they can get free shit, because women need free shit. That's their nature. They need support from men and from other women. Men need support too, but it's not the same. Men are expected to generate value, to generate energy, to generate wealth. That's part of the fun of being a guy, is again, life is kind of on hard mode. That's the D&D character you rolled. If you play as a man, everything has a -5 debuff to it. If you want to use D&D nerd Reddit allegorical language to describe life, which unfortunately in this era where everybody's hypnotized by video games, it's a good metaphor. The D&D video game shit works because it's cross-cultural. It transcends culture. Reality probably is literally a video game being played by higher dimensional beings in a lower dimensional space. Just like writing is a way of communicating that exists in a two-dimensional space, and we're three-dimensional beings, but we hypnotize ourselves with stories. When you read a poem or a short story or a Twitter post, you're abdicating your higher dimensional brain to a lower dimensional format, which is flat. You're taking your 3D brain and jacking off to something that's flat. Just extend that metaphor to a higher being, to something in the 5th or 6th or 12th dimension looking down at us. You know, the Divine Comedy kind of hints at this. It talks about how reality is a stage show. Reality is a video game. You know, we might be higher dimensional beings down here, or we might be serving them by performing. Regardless of whether one thing is true or the other, it doesn't change the revelatory nature of that conception of reality. And the revelatory nature of that way of looking at things is that we're in a video game. That doesn't mean reality's meaningless and you can just be this vampire creep here. What it means is that there's a meaning behind reality that is systematic or systemic, and that these systems that we're living in, these laws of physics, this linear progression of time, all these things that are things physicists have obsessed about and jacked each other off to thinking about for years. They're just aspects of the engine that we're in, the game engine of reality. And if there's going to be any new religion that catches on, if there's going to be anything that makes any sense to people from multiple cultures, it's going to be that. It's going to be that we are in a video game, and I hate to use this phrase, but I'm using it unironically. We're in a video game, but that's a good thing. You're supposed to have fun here. This is not supposed to be a torture chamber. It's supposed to be a challenge chamber. And you have so much power to determine how you're challenged. Even if you're in a dictatorship, you have a lot of power. You have a lot of choice. And reality is fun because you have some semblance of choice. There's some part of your life, some aspect of your existence where you have a choice to make. That's power. You're a little bit closer to God just by being able to make choices. The ability to choose anything, even if choice is an illusion. Who cares if it's an illusion? Reality is an illusion, right? If you experience the illusion of choice the way that choice wants you to, then that's the point, right? You have a character creation thing that pops up at various points in your life. You're able to navigate reality by making choices that change your skill set. That's the most basic, fundamental way to look at reality. I don't know if it's a creepy, occult, Masonic type of thing. They've probably found out about it and are trying to gain followers by conceptualizing their media like that. I mean, look at Warhammer there. The Warhammer logo of the Emperor is the two-headed eagle from Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, it's blatant at this point. It's obvious. It's been obvious for years. But you don't need to join one of those groups. You can achieve an awareness of reality and of your power as an individual and of your ability to choose without having to be in a creepy cult. If you're a loner, if you have trouble trusting people, you don't have to consign yourself to unconscious slavery. You can still make choices. You can still build a life for yourself and the people that you care about. Okay, let's rubber band back to the film here. We've got this conversation going on. Where it's like, okay, we've got all these people in this little church area. And this chick is so insane. She's totally unhinged. She doesn't even want to preserve her own kind. If you realized you were a vampire, you'd probably want to act logically and preserve your own kind. And she's like, how about we just burn everything? Her lizard brain has identified the vampiric parasite linguistic infection and said, this is a foreign body and I want it killed. And in fact, everything like me should be killed. That's not the right response. The right response is to build a society that's sustainable. If you realize that there's a class of people, of aliens, of creatures, and they have certain needs, your challenge then is to build a society that fulfills those needs. That's the difficult but correct route to go. This chick just wants to kill herself. She wants to commit suicide. Subconsciously, she knows she's an abomination. Whether that's the correct way of viewing yourself or not, that's her credo and her actions reflect it. Again, look at what she does. She's like, let's just all kill ourselves. It's a very leftist way of looking at things. Yeah, oh, you were wrong? Wow, dude. A little late to realize you were wrong. Good God, man. She's like, they need a controller, an enthraller. They're zombies. They're NPCs. They need an NPC controller. This guy goes, we weren't worshipping God, man. I fucked up. We were worshipping Moloch or Yahweh or some other kind of cringe thing. Just give it to Lilith. She'll just kill them all. She's so retarded. She'll just kill them. Yeah, Jesus was a Jewish rabbi's pupil, and he rebelled against his rabbinical masters. And he was killed for it. Vampire's blood, viper's brood. Kind of similar. It's kind of cool. He's like, first of all, what we did was wrong. Secondly, you trying to burn everybody, that's, I mean, how can you, well, what's the difference? Like, if we were wrong in the first place, we should all die. In your logic, you want to kill everybody or risk everybody dying, whether or not we're right or not. Like, again, this last episode, man, it's a bit convoluted. The motivations of people fall apart, and the excuse the writers probably used was, well, everyone's going insane, so we can just have dramatic scenes with no context that makes sense. That's probably the justification for a lot of this shit. And she's like, well, we're gonna hide in a building while the sun burns everything. I guess that's her plan. But then she also set fire to everything around the wooden building. That's why I'm having trouble understanding her motivation. It's like, well, you're going to risk your only refuge by burning everything. And you're just going to hope the fire doesn't rapidly spread to your vampire refuge? You're just going to hope that only everything around the refuge? Like, again, her thralls are such idiots. They misinterpreted her plan and did this. They burned everything. It's like you thought your followers could psychically read your mind? Like, what are you, an idiot? It's almost like you're cooked by a blood infection that makes you make horribly bad decisions and annihilate yourself. I mean, and of course, the PC Adam and Eve are going to escape the island. We all know they're going to escape. They've got their little spaceship and they're going to leave. You shouldn't love them. They were fucking pathetic failures. You should say, I pray for you. Okay, alright. Guys, I'm being a bit of a hard ass. I get it. Sorry, I'm being a little bit overzealous in my judgment. I get it. Your parents are still going to hell, but your prayers are appreciated. They ruined the economy. They got us into a cycle of forever wars. Amen. You're your brother's keeper until your brother decides to climb onto the fast track to hell. Then, you're not meant to go to hell with him. Let him go. Oh, the last dinner like the last supper. So this guy's kind of like Judas in a way, where he laments his behavior during the Last Supper. He sort of denied Christ, and he's now rushing away with a black woman in a boat. He's going to race mix his way to salvation. Maybe that's the right way, maybe it's wrong, maybe none of this means anything. I don't know. That's what he's doing. And now we've got the Denver airport bunker entrance. Ooh, kind of interesting. Who should they let in and who shouldn't they? None of them should be let in. They should just burn. Who cares? Fuck them. Now they're confessing, but who are they confessing to? They're confessing to Lilith. They're confessing to the female aspect of Satan. Lilith is the female aspect of Satan. That's who they're confessing to. Congratulations. She's a woman. She's going to use your confession against you, if anything. What are you, high? It's almost like they're high on adrenochrome. Bunch of retards. And by that I mean they're playing piano in retardando mode. They're all pianists. Every character here is a pianist. When I call them retards, I mean that they have a preference for playing in retardando mode. That's a very specific musical reference that might be lost on most of my audience, but you know what? I feel compelled to explain it, just for clarification. Just so everyone knows what the context of what I'm saying is. God, this chick gives Patrick Bateman a run for his money, man. There was a sequel to American Psycho featuring women, featuring female characters, and I've never seen it. That would be an interesting commentary. We should do a commentary on the original American Psycho, and then we should do a commentary on the female sequel. That would be interesting. The female sequel sucked ass, according to most opinions of it that I've heard, but it would be interesting to do a commentary on those two movies, back to back. Maybe we'll do that. That'd be fun. That would eat up some more time in my meaningless life. Sorry, Harry, you're going to the Polish mass grave. You're going to the execution pit. You're going to be concentrated like orange juice, which is where you take water out of something. Concentration is the removal of water or excess liquid mass from a substance. And what's left behind is more potent. So it's the killing of unnecessary people in order to produce a more potent remaining group. Creepy shit. This guy's about to be concentrated. He's about to concentrate on pissing himself while he's shot. And our priest guy, now he's trying to redeem himself at the end. It's like, bro, you've already made every satanic bargain you could possibly have made. I'm pretty sure the blood on the walls kind of makes it not a God's house. And now we have Curie from Fallout 4. God bless her, man. She knows what's up. She's like, this all needs to burn, including you. And he's like, I know I fucked up. He's like, just do it. And he's like, you're my daughter. And she didn't know that. Now's the moment of confession. Now he's really confessing. This is his actual redemption. He says, you were a bastard child. We didn't admit it. And you suffered. But, ooh, now what is he going to do? Now she's dying. And she could have lived. She could have lived. She could have escaped. Now we see, finally, his wrath. Finally, we get to see who he is. You kill my daughter. That's the breaking point. The one pure woman you could have saved. But of course, what he's done is so heinous. Everything should have been taken away from him. And all the thralls get to watch the epic Tudor drama of the elite. Oh, the elite, their suffering is so important. 5,000 of us had to die for this scene to happen, but we should really care about one of them. It's where I gotta lean towards the utilitarianists and go, you know what? And she goes, no, I'm not gonna take your fucking demon blood. Fuck you, I'd rather be dead. She says, I'd rather die behind the chemical sheds. Good woman. You're dying with some actual reality. You're accepting mortality rather than trying to circumvent it. Good for you. Oh, Curie. Don't worry, I'll replay Fallout 4 again. Maybe I'll even record it for this channel, because I've been playing it lately. And I will rush the quest where I get to have you as a companion. In tribute to the actress and the writers of this show, perhaps I'll do a Curie Fallout 4 playthrough. I like survival mode in that game, but I always re-enable fast travel because as fun as, you know, walking for 30 minutes between locations is the first time, the fifth or eighth time it kind of gets old. So, you know, you want fast travel. You know, you got to do it. And now instead of Mary holding Christ's body, we have John holding his daughter's body. It's an inversion of the religious original. And she's like, I'm gonna shoot you, motherfucker. Why would you shoot him in the leg? Did you miss? Were you that bad of a shot? Jesus Christ, go to a fucking firing range. And she's like, you Muslim fuck. You have to worship Israel like all of us are. And he's like, I'll destroy the masonry. I'll destroy the Masons. If the Masons are corrupt and evil, they deserve to be burned to the ground. Dirty blood. People obsessed over retreating into little Masonic tunnels or crypts or bunkers. Who would want to run? It's the people who would fear judgment the most would want to run. They'd want to hide. And finally, our poor curly-haired brunette chick is demonically raped, of course. And they're like, hey, Gaza Strip kid, we've killed your entire society. Don't you want to agree with us instead? He's like, no, bro, I'm gonna go with my dad. I'm gonna blow up your little vampire bullshit. Why wouldn't he? I mean, for fuck's sake, you fucked the kid from the moment he came into the narrative. God damn. And now, finally, somebody quotes the Bible accurately, where he says he makes the sun rise on the evil and the good. She's like, I'm not gonna lie, I did come during this, but it was involuntary. She's like, I did come, but it was involuntary. Don't worry. Like Icarus, she's going to slit his wings so that when he tries to fly back to the sun, he will fall. They always fall. God, he's such a retard. He's so distracted. He's playing retardando piano here. What the fuck, man? How do you not notice that? He's so hungry, he's so thirsty. Funny how we use the word thirsty to characterize horniness. Funny how horniness has the word horns in it. Think about that. If you have half a brain. I'm so sick of this shit, man. It can't just be me who's supposed to get this shit. Some of you have to get it too. Thirst as a metaphor for sexual attraction. That's creepy, that's vampiric. Horniness, using the word horns. The word goat for greatest of all time. You're a goat? You're a sacrificial goat? I'm the highest of the cucks. When the sacrifice time comes, I'll be killed most epically. How about you don't get killed at all? How about you get the fuck out of the system? This poor bastard. He's like, I think I killed my mom. Good God, man. Imagine doing that and then realizing it later. What a hell. And now, again, this is all pointless. This guy's got 2 flaming church windows right behind his head. Oh, will you forgive me? I'll forgive you. Will you jack me off? I'll jack you off. Let's fraught together. As if that makes any difference. The deal's done, man. It's finished. It's already happened. At least she's able to cut this thing's wings, man, but will it be enough? That's the million-dollar question. Now she's dead. The parasite has extracted from her all that it can in its parasitic fever of feeding. But it can still fly. If you cleanse yourself of parasites, doesn't matter how much wormwood you eat, you'll go outside and take a breath of fresh air, and you'll get another parasite egg in your tissues right away. The parasite is very persistent. The only way to cleanse yourself would be to maybe be in a robot body. Maybe that's the way forward. Maybe all the perspectives on uploading our consciousness to machine bodies that are negative are foreign parasite psyops trying to convince us that we should still be rotting meat corpse people. Maybe being in a robot's body where you're immune to parasitic infection is what God intended. Maybe that's what I've been building up to saying for a while now. And it's only this series that gave me the chance to justify saying it. If the parasites we're dealing with on this earth are biological, would God want us to stay here and suffer, or would he want us to get out? Would he offer us a way out? And now we rubber band back to the whole DMT death narrative, where the meat ape hell suit chemically hypnotizes you into getting back into samsara, to getting back here, to escape, would be to deny biology and deny nature, to deny the shitball reality we live in. and to give up what you would need to give up to do that. Now again, this monologue's overblown, but this chick is getting into semantics, which I can vibe with. She's like, calling yourself a self is not right. She goes, a self is too limited. Yeah. She's taking science. The masculine, intellectual, logical side is this man, and the feminine, emotional side is this woman. These are the two hemispheres of the brain talking to each other. That's why this scene is good. That's why it works. These are two different alien species trying to talk to each other. And she's saying, I acknowledge the truths of science. I know. Yeah, it's mostly empty space. It's vibrations. This is the real shit. This is good. Could have been better, could have been written better, but the concept behind it is correct. Single electron universe reference, very good. That's correct. Yeah, it's cyclical. I am energy, not memory. Damn, that's good. That's good. I like that. Yeah. Everything else is Plato's cave illusions. Dreamlets printed on my brain. This is pretty good, I have to say. She's acknowledging that the guy was right, and that her purely spiritual interpretation of reality was lacking. Just like a purely scientific interpretation is lacking, they're both lacking because they haven't talked to each other. The two hemispheres of the brain in the human skull are separated by this wall, this Berlin Wall of cartilaginous tissue. There's a name for it that I forget. But those two hemispheres need to talk to each other more. And evolution, I think, will force them to. I think it already is. This is where things get creepily Lovecraftian, because Lovecraft's conception of reality was that it was the dream of an insane god. It's a Gnostic concept. Only an insane god could dream a flawed universe. A sane god would dream a perfect one. So, here we are. And we're here because we chose to be. We chose the insanity. We chose the challenge. And we like it here. Everything and nothing at the same time. That's the true shit. You're both God and God's plaything at the same time. And he's like, you get it. They both arrived at that conclusion in different ways based on the biology of the bodies they were in. The man arrived at it logically, the woman through emotion. But they both found out the same truth. And they shared it with each other through just interacting in whatever way they could. They weren't husband and wife, they didn't have a child, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that they met each other, they interacted, they had a connection. That's what matters. And now we get one of the best ending scenes where all these characters know they're infected, they're damned, they're going to burn. But we're all going to die anyway, you know? You're going to die a lot quicker in this series than you might, you know, through a slow suffering. At least it's going to be quick. And they're singing a ship captain's song. This song was sung in one of the adaptations of Titanic. When the Titanic sank, they sang in an early 20th century adaptation of Titanic, they sang this song. And of course the Titanic was a psyop meant to kill certain industrialist ANCAP-minded billionaires, or industrial magnates, however much money they had. But that aside, you know, we have our Muslims praying. We have these Christians singing, and this chick, what does she do? What is her response going to be? What is Lilith's response? The woman who ate the apple, the woman who ate the unborn infant. What is her reaction to her own judgment going to be? These two people. Takes off his collar, throws it away. In Fallout 4, I know this is cringe and trite to mention it at this point. Curie is a robot raised by a bunch of scientists, and they're all old men. And they treat her like she's human. They're merciful to an AI. They try to give her the benefit of the doubt. They look at her as something that responds to what it's told, to what it sees. And in doing so, they make Curie, in that narrative, into something more than what she was. When you find her as your character in Fallout 4, she says, I've devoted my last 200 years of existence to making a cure. And when you escort her across the Commonwealth, to me, she's the best character. She's the only hope. And of course, this selfish chick is trying to dig a hole, as if that's going to help. Anyway, the woman who died on the bridge just now, the Curie-looking chick, her parents were devoted to a different type of way to view reality, and they totally devoted themselves to it, to their own ruin. And Curie's parents in Fallout 4 kind of do a similar thing. They're scientists who die to try to find cures for diseases. And when you travel with Curie and you romance her and you get her into a humanoid body, she wants to continue their work. And when you find her in Vault 81, she's curated graves for the scientists that educated her. A very human thing to do. She's put flowers, she's put their... You walk in there and there's lab coats and glasses on top of the graves, which are makeshift graves. They're made out of lockers. And Curie, this fictional character in this fictional shit, she's a robot, and she's done more for them in a human sense than a lot of humans do for their dead. And that's why I love her. I love that fake character. Because she transcends what she was intended to be. She absorbs reality, the reality around her, and she elevates herself. And now, as the ashes fall, here's our two survivors. Haggard as they are as they are. Shout out to Mike Flanagan for this, man. This was not an easy thing to conceptualize, let alone produce and make real. It has a lot of flaws, but it's very good. And the reason I wanted to do a commentary on the whole series is because, first of all, I tried to do one, and it sucked ass because I was high as fuck when I did it the last time. I can't even remember if I finished it, but here's my actual commentary on it. Here's my half sane, hopefully more pointed and relevant and useful commentary on this series. And other than that, I don't have much to say. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate your viewership. Whoever you are, whatever you represent, wherever you're from, and whatever your personal goals are, I hope you succeed. And I appreciate your encounter with my take on this series, and I hope it was good for you. I hope it did some good. Anyway, guys, take some vitamin D and drink some water, and get some sunlight on your face, or you'll become an epic, creepy vampire from this show. For real, though, hope you and yours are doing well, and as always, peace out.